Hi YouTube, this is Joshua Kemble, and this is vlog number 60. I'm at 60, and that's cool. So cool, I'm gonna take both hands off the wheel. Oh crap. This is the vlog where I talk about quarterly stories, which is my graphic novel that I hand write, hand letter, and hand ink, and then hand to you. Hopefully someday in print, but until that day, it is available for your reading enjoyment, serialized at quarterlystories.com. all the way up to the current page 47, which I will be inking the first panel of, hopefully, tonight. It is a story about faith and mental illness. It's a very personal story to me. And this is the vlog where I talk about the process of creating that graphic novel on top of being a full-time father, a full-time husband, and a full-time art director. So with all that stuff, it can be kind of challenging to make time for personal projects, and so I thought it would be cool to make this vlog about 60 vlogs ago, where I talk about some of those struggles, some of the challenges, and some of the things I've learned along the way making personal projects as well as being a professional artist. So, boom, that is my intro. So, for those of you who've been here from vlog 1 to vlog 60, congratulations, it's our 60th anniversary, and that's pretty awesome. And that means it's 60 times where you've probably heard that same boring intro. But you know what? It's starting to catch. I'm starting to get used to it, and hopefully you guys are as well. So, today is Tuesday, which means it's Rock and Roll Tuesday, when I get together with my neighbor. I guess I should call him my neighbor because it's only like a street away that he lives. But with my friend Josh, who I used to be in a band with, we write music, we work on creating stuff and making stuff. This time, the stuff we're making is the stuff of rock and roll. And we're making it with our hands and our guitars. And we're writing music. We're currently, 2 songs in writing some music, and we were working on our 3rd song. Initially, we were going to record and track out songs, and then we realized that it's really not quite the same without a drummer. And so, whilst on the lookout for a drummer, for those songs, we will probably hold off on doing any official recordings, although I'll probably show you guys a little bit of us jamming and rocking out on this very vlog. So, that's one thing on the dock for today. If you're new to this vlog and you're curious, why are you driving around in this what appears to be a desert wasteland? Well, I live in what appears to be a desert wasteland, the Antelope Valley. I commute all the way to the LA area to work as a full-time art director. And so a lot of these vlogs, in order to stay consistent, I do a lot of these vlogs in my car on my drive home to work. It's a good way for me to analyze my goals, and it's also a good way for me to generate some content that hopefully you guys will find compelling and interesting. So, today, that's one thing on the dock, is I am going to rock and roll with my friend Josh. Before I rock and roll, I'm going to publish vlog 59, which I uploaded while I was at work. I left it on upload at home. I went to work, and I got the little sign that it's uploaded on my email when I got off work, and so I am going to hit that little publish button. You might have noticed that I have penciled page 47 of Quarterly Stories. I'm pretty happy with how the pencils came out. I'm going to try to ink the first panel of that page. So that is my 3rd goal for the night. And then my 4th will be to sleep and hopefully not be completely burnt out for the rest of the week. In my last vlog, I also talked about fighting resistance and the importance of fighting resistance. And I can't stress enough how much that actually is a constant thing. An interesting thing about YouTube videos, now that I'm 60 episodes in, it takes a little bit of time to edit, and I feel like I have kind of a pattern. I kind of know the style that I like to use my videos. If you guys haven't noticed, I tend to use similar music tracks every time, so that's kind of solved and figured out. And if that bothers any of you guys, please let me know, because I do try to make these as entertaining and well edited as time permits. Regardless of how I figured out a more effective way to get these done, I'm much more comfortable communicating to a camera, which for the first 20 vlogs, I had trouble with that. I was trying to figure out how exactly do you talk to a camera, and it gets kind of weird to explain, but it feels like 60 episodes in, I've kind of got to the point where talking to the camera is almost like talking to an old friend. So maybe I'll get locked away because I'm talking to a camera as if they're a friend. But I am knowing, whilst talking to this camera, that on the other side, you, the viewer, and hopefully the subscriber, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe down here. But that you guys are actually watching, and some of you guys are actually commenting, and that's really encouraging, and it helps me to understand that I am not just talking to a screen, that I am talking to a group of friends that I've made online, and that's very cool, and that's very valuable, and it's kind of a nice way to hang out with my friends after I'm off work. So anyhow, so that's just a cheesy way to say, like, 60 episodes in, I feel like I'm getting a little more comfortable vlogging, and I do feel like I'm getting the hang of this editing thing, but it's still time consuming. And I think I'm reminded of something I heard from many cartoonists when I first got into comics. You know, like, I remember meeting a lot of experienced cartoonists at my first Alternative Press Expo convention. And for those of you who don't live in California, Alternative Press Expo, I don't even know if it exists anymore. When my comic is out in print, I'll find out, because I'll probably be conventioning again. But when my first comic, Numb, came out, I had it, I befriended this guy named Jeff Mason, who's an amazing indie publisher who used to publish this series of comics and put them out through a comic company called Alternative Comics, which was a great publisher. And I believe they've been bought out and now are owned by a different owner. But I think they're still kicking, which is awesome. But anyhow, so when I befriended this guy, he allowed me to use space at the Alternative Comics table to show and sell my comic book Numb. And basically, in exchange, why I agreed to do this was he helped me distribute Numb. And so, because Alternative Comics had listings in Diamond, which was the distributor, and I think still is kind of the monopoly distributor of comic books, he got my comic listed in Diamond, and I don't believe it cost me a thing. This was years and years and years ago, so I may not be remembering it correctly. But anyhow, he was a great guy, and it was a cool experience, because for me, as a young cartoonist, this was my first kind of foray into conventioning and boothing. And I remember at that convention meeting a lot of my heroes, meeting indie guys who'd been at it for a long time, some of them very successful at what they did. And I kept bumping into them and feeling like, because I was a young artist, just out of college, just had my first comic finished, I kept asking cartoonists, you know, what was the secret? Like, why was it so hard to make comics? Does it get easier as you go? What's the difficult part? And every single one of them basically expressed to me this secret, which I think is really valuable. And the secret is, there is no secret. It's a lot of work. So there's no real shortcut or if, and, or but about it. The more you do it, the more you'll find little like loopholes and tricks and ways to make it more efficient and quick, and you'll get better at realizing your intention. So you'll be able to get better at visualizing what your page will look like before it's done, and avoiding mistakes because you've made them a million times, and correcting mistakes because you can recognize them better. That does get a little easier, but in general, it is going to be work to make a comic book. That's just the nature of work, and art is also artwork, and it's a lot of artists want it to not be work, want it to be fun, and unfortunately, even if it's a personal project that has no monetary goal or aim, it's still going to be work, and that is just one of the unfortunate things, but also exciting things about comics, because if you're starting in comics, what that means is there really isn't some big trick that you're missing out on. You hope that you get better, and you stay open to feedback from people who might be mentors or might help you out in the industry, and aside from that, you kind of hang on for good luck, and you keep doing the work. And if you do good enough work, I strongly believe that an audience will find you. And this has proven time and time again to me that to be true. So take that or leave that for what it is. It's kind of a rant, but the point being, on my 60th vlog, when I started doing vlogging, which isn't that long ago, as far as vlogs and YouTube goes, I'm pretty much a newcomer to this territory. But one of the things that I've realized is, I think that applies to YouTube. I think that applies to filming these videos. Like, no matter what tricks, and the better I get at this, the more comfortable I get in front of the camera, the better I get, the quicker I get at editing, it is still a lot of work. And so just, something to keep in mind if you're like starting out with projects or something like that is like, I think that is the secret. The secret is there is no secret. The secret is work. Okay, so maybe there is a secret actually. It's that secret button on Photoshop where you press the button and it says draw. You click it and it draws your entire image. I'm kidding, that button doesn't exist. So right now I'm heading to my friend Josh's. We're gonna play guitar, we're gonna rock and roll, we're gonna write some music. And it's funny because I feel like a topic is opening up through this conversation with you guys, so I think I'm gonna continue it. And then, regret it later when I have to edit this nightmarishly long video. Something to keep in mind regarding this whole idea that I was bringing up of the secret being no secret, it's work. I think that applies to music as well. I mean, basically, like when I first bought a guitar, I was about 15 years old. I didn't know anything about playing guitar. I didn't have the money, nor did my family have the money to pay for somebody to give me lessons. And so I just bought a guitar, not knowing how to play, not knowing if it was the right kind of guitar. And in retrospect, it was kind of like a big piece of plywood called the Sensonics. I don't know if they still make guitars anymore, but back in the day, and this was because, my family was not really internet savvy, and I think at the time, the internet really wasn't like kind of how you bought stuff. Like it was sort of a new vista, and the people who were maybe using the internet to purchase things, when I was 15, were, really like clued in hackers and coders and stuff, and librarians. Like I had no idea the internet was for anything. I think that at that time there were chat rooms where I would talk to people about music, but that's about it. Like I don't and wasn't familiar with there being an internet. So, and I didn't know anything about music. I didn't know to go to Guitar Center. I didn't even know Guitar Center existed. The majority of my family really didn't play music or know much about it. And so I was kind of on my own. I was like, I want to play guitar. I want to start a band. So one day I saved up the money and I looked in the Sears catalog, and there were guitars at the beginning. And I remember spending weeks poring over the Sears catalog pages, finding a Sensonics electric guitar which was within my budget, and buying it. And Sears catalogs were like these thick magazines where they'd have like photos of the product you want to order, and you would make a phone call, or you would order by order sheet. Like you'd fill out an order form and you'd send it to Sears, and then you would get in the mail much later on this box with a guitar. And this guitar was pretty much like a piece of plywood. It was a piece of crap. It was a terrible, terrible guitar. It had like one pickup. The body of it was actually plywood. And, the neck was bolted on really cheaply. And the tuning pegs were like made of this cheap plastic that kind of broke in about a month. So I had to kind of get super glue and re-glue on the little tuning pegs. Point being, it was a bad guitar, and I didn't have any other thing. And so I went to the bookstore and I bought a little chord chart, and I just started basically teaching myself to play guitar. And then after I learned one or two chords and one or two strumming patterns, I met with my friend Jake, who was figuring out drums in very much the same fashion, and we started a band. And the rest is history. Like we taught ourselves, we figured it out ourselves. And guess what? Most people I've met who learned guitar, there was no secret. The secret was they just worked at it, and they repeated and repeated and repeated till it became habit. And the secret to writing songs, there's not really a right or wrong way to write a song. There are some basics that you can kind of figure out on your own, and that's what we did. We'd figure out what we liked. And first, the songs we wrote would be like a minute long because we need two chords, and what can you do with two chords for more than a minute or two? And then, our songs were too long, and they'd be these long, epic stanzas and ridiculously long, and maybe they didn't have the right structure. But eventually you kind of figure it out. You're like, okay, you got your intro, you got your chorus, you got your verse, you got your chorus, you got your verse, you got your chorus or breakdown. And then if the chorus came first, you have your breakdown. If not, you have your breakdown and then your chorus. And then you have possibly a verse or possibly an ending. So that's your basic song structure, at least that we figured out. So what do like, I think when you're a young guitarist and you're trying to figure out chords and you're strumming and you're hitting dead notes and you sound terrible, which frankly I probably still sound terrible because I've never been an excellent guitarist. I just kind of enjoy it. But what you start learning is like, oh yeah, it's just practice. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of just work. And that's how you write music. That's how you play music. That's how you write comics. That's how you, play comics. I actually should start calling it play. I like that. I like the idea that we call what we're doing intentional practiced play, because it's fun, and most cartoonists are not doing it for money. They're doing it to play, but it's a very complicated game that requires a lot of practice, a lot of dedication, and a lot of work. So there's that dark secret. So anyhow, totally rambling, but that was just something on my mind, and now I am halfway to home, and I wish I hadn't left work like 30 minutes late, but what can you do? All right, we got whiskey, aged 10 years. That looks pretty good. Let's pour it. Roll Tuesday complete, and now I am heading home to work on comics. So it is 1 in the morning, and I have finally finished inking panel 1, page 47. Initially I just inked the first figure, and then I got kind of a second wind, so I decided to just go ahead and finish the panel. So Rock and Roll Tuesday done, and the panel looks pretty good. I actually recorded the inking of it and then ended up losing the video of that, but I will show you what I accomplished. So here's panel 1, the character sitting on a bed and then this dark stuff creeping in. And I'm hoping at the end to kind of spray it with some splatters of ink to kind of make it more interesting, but I noticed that I was super low on artist tape, and so I couldn't mask off the corners. In order to do that technique, I need to mask it, so that's something I'm keeping in my brain for later as a possibility, and should be pretty fun. But anyhow, so 1 panel inked, comics done, rock and roll done. Probably gonna have a very tired day tomorrow, and I have to do art casters, but that'll be awesome. So yeah, so there it is. And I know I say this in almost every single vlog, but I really can't thank you guys enough, those of you who have subscribed, commented, liked, and shared these videos. It's really awesome. It keeps these videos going, keeps me kind of pumped about what I'm doing in the community that we're building here on YouTube, and also keeps me going on my comic, which is ideal and awesome. So anyhow, I will see you guys next week.